Most men assume that avoidant people just move on. They ghost, they vanish, and they never look back. You see their silence and think, guess she never cared. No drama, no closure, just distance. But what looks like indifference on the surface is often something much more complex underneath. Avoidance may look calm when they lose someone, especially when that someone was the real thing. But inside, a quiet storm starts building. They just don't show it. They don't know how. Because when an avoidant loses a woman who genuinely saw them, who understood them, accepted them, and still stayed, it shakes something deep inside them that they can't name or admit. Stage 1. Denial. The first thing an avoidant does after losing the right person isn't cry, call, or chase. It's rationalize. They tell themselves they needed space anyway. They convince themselves the relationship was too demanding, that freedom is better than intimacy. They replay every moment that made them uncomfortable, rewriting the story until you become the problem. They say things like, she was too emotional. She expected too much. She didn't understand my boundaries. What they're really saying is, she made me feel something I wasn't ready to feel. Avoidants are experts at disconnecting from emotion. It's a survival skill they learned long before you met them. So in the early stages, they don't grieve. They intellectualize. They bury their feelings under logic, routine, or work. They distract themselves with the gym, money, casual hookups, or silence. And for a while, it works. They even feel relief. But that relief is short-lived. Because losing the right woman doesn't just leave a gap in their schedule, it leaves a void in their identity. And that void doesn't stay quiet forever. Stage 2. The slow realization. Weeks or sometimes months later, the silence starts to echo. They scroll through your old messages, not to reply, but to remind themselves of how you used to make them feel. They find themselves checking your social media at 1 a.m., pretending it's accidental. They hear a song, smell your perfume on a jacket they forgot to wash, and for a split second, that armor cracks. Avoidants don't process pain directly. Their emotional digestion is slow. They suppress now and suffer later. So when the right woman is gone, it creeps up on them in fragments. A memory here, a flash of guilt there. It's never dramatic, but it's persistent. They start trying to replace you, but every new connection feels flat. Because deep down, they're not chasing a new partner. They're chasing the emotional safety they lost. And that's when it hits them. You weren't ordinary. You were rare. You saw through the walls they built, and you didn't run. You were patient when they shut down, soft when they got sharp, steady when they went cold. That kind of love doesn't fade, it imprints. Stage 3. The hidden regret. Avoidants aren't emotionless. They're emotionally avoidant. The feelings exist. They're just buried under layers of fear and pride. When regret starts to surface, it's quiet, but heavy. They'll remember small things, the way you looked at them when they didn't deserve it, the sound of your laugh, the way you brought calm to their chaos. And for the first time, they'll feel the ache of what they destroyed. But here's the paradox. Even when they finally feel the loss, they still won't reach out. Why? Because to do that, they'd have to admit they were wrong. They'd have to risk rejection. They'd have to say the words that terrify them. I miss you. And for someone who's spent their entire life equating vulnerability with weakness, that's a mountain they rarely climb. So instead they stay silent. They check your stories. They ask mutual friends how you're doing. They draft messages they'll never send. It's easier to miss you quietly than to risk being seen. Stage 4. The attempted reconnection. Some avoidants eventually reach out, but it's rarely straightforward. They won't say, I regret losing you. They'll say something like, hey, just thinking about you, Or they'll react to an old post 6 months too late. It's not closure, it's curiosity. They're testing the waters, wondering if you're still emotionally available. If you respond warmly, they might engage. If you respond coldly, they'll retreat. Either way, they tell themselves a story that keeps them safe. If you reply, "See, she still wants me." If you ignore them, "See, I was right not to trust anyone." It's a psychological loop designed to protect their ego, not heal their heart. Because the truth is, avoidants fear rejection more than they crave connection. Stage 5. The mirror moment. Eventually, every avoidant hits a moment of quiet reckoning. The distractions stop working. The pride starts feeling hollow. The world moves on, and the only thing left in the room is truth. They start realizing that the distance they thought would protect them has become the thing that isolates them. That freedom now feels like loneliness. That the silence they used as a weapon has turned into a cage. For some, this becomes the breaking point, the moment they finally confront their patterns, maybe even seek therapy, read the books, learn about attachment, try to grow. But not all reach that point. Many double down on avoidance, telling themselves they're better off alone. They repeat the same story until it becomes identity. "I'm just not built for relationships." They confuse safety with solitude, control with strength. And by the time they realize what they lost, you're already gone. How they feel, watching you move. There's one scene every avoidant secretly dreads: the moment they see you happy without them. It could be months later. You're smiling in a photo, your energy's lighter, your eyes no longer carry their weight. They'll tell themselves they're glad for you. They'll even like the picture. But inside, it stings. Because in that moment they realize you weren't waiting. You healed, you rebuilt, you outgrew their silence, and that hits harder than anything you could have said. Avoidants crave control. Losing emotional control is their biggest fear. So when the person they once dismissed now thrives without them, it exposes the truth they've avoided for years. They didn't lose you because you were too much. They lost you because they gave too little. What this means for you: if you were the man who gave patience, loyalty, and emotional presence to someone who couldn't reciprocate, understand this. Their silence doesn't mean you were unworthy. It means they were unready. Avoidants don't lose interest in average. They lose control around real. And real terrifies them. So stop waiting for the apology that won't come. Stop checking if they've changed. Stop translating their distance as mystery. It's fear, nothing more. The hardest truth: they may never fix it. Avoidants often learn lessons through loss. But growth is a choice, and not everyone takes it. Some spend their lives running from the very intimacy they crave, confusing comfort with control, independence with isolation. You can't save them from that, and it's not your job to try. Your takeaway as a man: what do you do when the right woman, the one you saw as your match, turns out to be avoidant? You let her go with dignity. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't play therapist. Because when a person runs from love, you can't catch them without losing yourself. Instead, you redirect that energy inward. You ask better questions. Why did I tolerate emotional distance for so long? What part of me needed to fix someone to feel worthy? How do I build a life so full that no one's silence can break it again? That's how you win. Not by proving your value to someone who couldn't receive it, but by becoming a man who no longer confuses chaos with connection. The final truth: when an avoidant loses the right person, it doesn't happen in one moment. It happens slowly: denial, distraction, reflection, regret. They don't fall apart in public. They fall apart in private, behind pride and pretense. They might never tell you, but they feel it. Every time they see a reflection of what you gave, and they realize no one else matches it. Every time their independence starts to feel like loneliness. And that's their silent consequence, knowing they lost something real, because fear was louder than love. So if you're the one who had to walk away, remember this: you were not forgettable. You were not replaceable. You were the mirror that showed them what real connection looked like. And now they're left staring into that mirror alone, haunted by what they let slip away. Brothers, understand this. Losing the right woman doesn't destroy a man. Chasing the wrong one does. If you love someone who couldn't love you back, that's not failure. That's feedback. It's proof you're capable of depth. Now it's time to give that depth to yourself. Don't let one avoidant love story make you cynical about all women. Let it make you wiser, smarter about boundaries, sharper about red flags, because the next time you meet a woman who can meet you halfway, you'll recognize it, and this time you'll be ready. Until then, hold your ground, protect your peace, and never beg to stay in a life that's already pushing you out, because when an avoidant loses the right person, they lose quietly. But when you finally learn from it, you win loudly, by becoming the man who never settles for half love again.